Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to share with you a eyeshadow palette declutter video, and I'm really excited because I have so many eyeshadow palettes and I feel like I can't even keep track of them because I have two drawers that are like stuffed of eyeshadow palettes, and I want that to be a lot more manageable. And I do get like a lot of eyeshadow palettes in PR, or I buy them like all the time because I like to. I review a lot of palettes, but I really cannot use every single palette, so I just have to be reasonable about like what I actually think I'll end up using, and that way I don't have things just sitting in my collection for like 5 years. So even if some palettes are newer, I'd rather them just be donated and somebody able to use them right away than them just end up being old in my collection just for the sake of having them. With all my palette declutters, I do donate to Project Beauty Share. It's an organization based in Washington, and they're really great because they take gently used makeup. A lot of different shelters don't take used makeup, but they do, so you just ship out. I always just ship out like a big box of products to them whenever I do declutters, and then they sanitize it and they pass it along to various women's shelters and women's organizations. So that's a really great resource if you guys want to donate gently used makeup, or you have like a lot of extra makeup but it's used and you don't want it to like go to waste and throw it away or anything. So that's a really great resource to use, especially if you don't have anything local. I'll leave all the information about it in my description box. But if you guys want to see what I'm going to be getting rid of in my palette declutter, then just keep on watching. Alright, so I think I'm going to break this down into two parts, one for each eyeshadow drawer. This drawer has like kind of more of my least used eyeshadow palettes, and then this drawer has like all of my favorites. So we'll see how many I end up decluttering, but I'm going to just go ahead and start out with the drawer that has pretty much all of my favorites, but I still think that this is way too much. I kind of want to take everything and turn it into one drawer will be my goal. I don't know if that's gonna happen, but let's just dive into this drawer for this video, and then my next video will be my bottom drawer, and I think this is like 50 palettes. Let's see how many I want to get rid of, because some of them are a lot newer, which I of course won't get rid of, but I don't know what's back here, honestly, because there's so much. So let's start off with just getting through like all of the obvious palettes that I'm not going to get rid of, like the Natasha Denona Gold palette, which I just got a couple weeks ago and I love so much. I have a review of this, an amazing palette. Born to Run from Urban Decay, you guys know I've been raving about this palette. These are all kind of like the newer palettes in my collection. Naked Cherry is new-ish as well. It came out, I got it like right when it released, so I'm still of course using that. Too Faced Gingerbread Spice. I have reviews on my channel on like every single one of these palettes for the past couple weeks. Same with the Elements palette from Urban Decay. This one just came out for the holidays. Chocolate Hill Ring the Alarm palette. This one is newer as well, so I'm just kind of making room to see what the older things are. There is a little bit more room now. Of course, I'm keeping my Jaclyn Hill palette, my Sultry palette. I like to keep it in the pretty packaging because it just looks so pretty. This is one of my favorites right now. And then both of the Color Theory palettes from Persona Cosmetics. The Copper palette is my favorite, and then also the pink palette that has all like purpley and pink matte shades. Okay, so let's actually get into some palettes that I can potentially get rid of. Not the Jaclyn Hill palette, like I said, love this palette to death. Basically this is so far just an eyeshadow palette collection video, but now we're getting into some debatable palettes. So first off, Urban Decay Back Talk. I've been meaning to get rid of this for months. The blushes and highlighters are totally fine. These shades are just subpar, basically. They're really average eyeshadows, so I'm gonna be passing this one along for sure. Next up, this is from my BoxyCharm maybe 2 months ago, the Nightingale palette from Pretty Vulgar. I've used it like twice and I'm not obsessed with it like I am so many of my other palettes in my collection. There's nothing wrong with it, but I really just see myself using this like once every other month, so I'm not gonna miss it, honestly. And it's still really new, so I can donate that. I'm actually thinking I might get rid of the KKW and Mario palette. I did love this palette, but honestly, like I haven't touched this palette since the summer and I don't see myself missing it. Like maybe every now and then if I want it for a comparison video, but I don't want to hold on to it just because I might make a video and reference it in 6 months from now, you know. So I'm going to pass this along. Nothing wrong with the palette whatsoever, but I just want to make room for new things and not have things all piled up. These are all of my Colourpop palettes, and I like every single one of them. But I'm just gonna keep the ones that I absolutely love because it's just a lot. So let's see, Give It To Me Straight. This is that purpley themed palette. This one is well loved, but I haven't used this in a while, so let me just go ahead and pass this along. The Yes Please palette, I need to clean up the packaging so it doesn't look like a hot mess, but this is my least favorite Colourpop palette, so I'm gonna pass that along too. Element of Surprise, I'm gonna pass this along. I used it for a little bit, but I'm not gonna miss it in my collection. It's hard because basically all of the palettes that I'm showing so far, I like them all except for the Back Talk palette. Dream Street palette, I really like. I have the Zodiac palette on my vanity right now. I'm keeping that one. I really like this palette a lot. I love the shimmer shades in here, so I'm definitely keeping that. And then I think I'm going to keep Mar and Soul now that I just got rid of so many of my other palettes. The Soul palette came out this summer. Love the shades in here. And also love the blue shades in the Mar palette, so I'm gonna hang on to both of those. You Had Me at Hello, I think I'm gonna keep as well. Actually, this is a neutral palette. I like it, and I have a million other neutral palettes, so let me go ahead and pass this one along too. This is a palette that's actually brand new to me from PYT Beauty. I haven't even used it yet. I just got it in the mail a couple days ago, so I'm gonna hang on to that. So I will move all of the palettes. Here is another affordable palette from e.l.f. This is the Modern Metals palette. This just came out a couple weeks ago, so it's pretty new in my collection. I really like the formula, so I'm gonna hang on to this too. Next, let's see, Too Faced Natural Matte. Do I want to keep this? I actually don't think I want to keep this. Yeah, I'm not gonna miss this in my collection. I have neutral brown shades. It's so pretty. And I really like the formula a lot, but it's just, it takes up room when I have these shades in other palettes, basically. The Too Faced Natural Eyes palette, I'm definitely keeping this shade, Chocolate Martini. I use a couple times a week to deepen up different eye looks. The shade Honey Pot is one of my favorite golds in my collection, so definitely keeping that palette. Alamar Cosmetics, I never reached for this, but I love this palette. I haven't reached for it since the summer. But I'm definitely keeping this just because everything's in Spanish and it makes my heart happy. So I'm gonna hang on to this. I need to start using this more. So this is a Cover Shot glitter palette from Smashbox. This is pretty new in my collection, and I haven't used it too much, but I feel like I could get some really pretty holiday looks with some of these shades. So I am gonna hang on to this for at least through the end of the year, and if I don't like to use it for the holidays, I'll probably pass it along. All right, so next up we have the Too Faced Just Peachy Mattes palette, and I don't really use this palette anymore. I loved it at the time, but now I have just so many warm shadows in my collection that I don't reach for this. So what I'm gonna do, I'm going to get rid of this one, but I'm gonna bring this one back because as soon as I put it in the get rid of pile, I regretted it because I just love this formula. I think that this formula is a bit creamier than the Just Peachy Mattes palette, and I use these matte colors more than the peachy matte colors. So we're keeping this one, getting rid of this one. This one's a bit older in my collection. This one I only got in the spring, and I like it. So I'm not gonna get rid of it just to get rid of more palettes. I changed my mind on that one. Next up we have the Pat McGrath Mothership Sublime Bronze Ambition palette. Definitely keeping this. I don't use it enough, but it's such an expensive palette and the formula is really pretty. So I just need to use it more because I spent too much money on it, basically. So really like the formula, the quality is great. It's not like a complete palette. Like I feel like I use other palettes with this palette, but the shades in here I really do like. Next up we have the Goddess Goddess Quad from Charlotte Tilbury. I'm gonna pass this along as well. I'm not gonna miss this in my collection. It's pretty, but I'm not gonna miss it. I have other pretty things that are the same colors, so I'm gonna pass that one along. Huda Beauty Rose Gold Palette Remastered. I actually really like the formula of this. I didn't end up getting the nudes palette. I didn't really like those shades, but the formula of this palette is definitely my favorite from Huda Beauty of like all of the full-size palettes I have. So definitely hanging on to this one. Ace Beauty, I just got this in BoxyCharm. I haven't even had a chance to like use this on my eyes, and I'm so excited for it. So definitely keeping this one. I want to do a tutorial with it, maybe on my Instagram in the next couple weeks for sure, because it's swatched so beautifully. And then we have the Tarte Pro palette. I don't know if I'm going to keep this one. This used to be my favorite palette, but I think I'm over it, so I'm going to just go ahead and declutter it because I love this shade, but I have this in like a couple different palettes. So I'm going to declutter that one. I feel like it had its time in my life, and that's how I feel about some of these palettes. Like I hang on to some of these chocolate bar palettes for nostalgia, but I don't really wear them. Next up we have the Urban Decay Naked Heat Petite. I am going to sadly get rid of this. There's so many palettes that I like that I'm getting rid of, but it just doesn't make sense if I'm not using them. So I'm going to pass this one along, and I'm going to keep the full-size Naked Heat palette. This palette's gorgeous. Love the colors in here. I don't wear it as often as I want to. I just get in a habit with like all of my new palettes. I just wear them over and over and over, and then I get the next new palette and wear it over and over and over. I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate to that. But even so, I do really love this palette. I definitely need to wear it more, and I'm definitely going to keep it. Really awesome formula. Next, the Norvino palette. Love this. This I've used the crap out of. This is one of those palettes that like I didn't put down until last week when I got the Sultry palette, basically. Love this palette so much. Definitely keeping it. I don't think I declutter things from Anastasia. Like that's just not happening. Like my Modern Renaissance palette looks like it's been through it. It's had a life. And it definitely has. So we're hanging on to it until it's pretty much all the way used up. So definitely keeping Modern Renaissance. Soft Glam, same deal. Like I just don't see myself getting rid of any of these full-size palettes like ever. Really beautiful palette. Really love the shades. Gorgeous neutral shades, amazing formula. And the formula of these palettes is what makes me feel a little bit better about getting rid of some of my other palettes, because it's like similar shades and this formula is a lot better than some of those palettes. So I'd rather just have like the same shades in a formula that I'm obsessed with and not just something that I like. Chocolate Gold, love this palette. Totally forget it's there. So just kind of like rediscovered it right now. The shade Rich Girl is like one of my all-time favorite shades. Such a beautiful like chromy silver color. So definitely hanging on to this palette for sure. It's a really nice complementary palette with the new gingerbread palette. I don't think I can get rid of these Too Faced palettes. Let's like put these aside for a second. Colourpop Perception. I just got rid of so many Colourpop palettes. So I'm definitely keeping the Perception palette. This one is my favorite from Colourpop. It has like all of my favorite shades, so definitely hanging on to this. I do feel a little sad getting rid of like all of these Colourpop palettes. I'm having already like a little bit of FOMO, but like they were just sitting there for so long, like it's not realistic for me to keep all of those. The Jouer Rose Gold, I think I'm going to pass along as well. This is a really pretty palette, but it's just like another neutral palette. Like I said, I have like all of these shades in the Anastasia formula, which is my favorite, so I could pass this along. And then these beauties. This is like one of my favorite things I own, like definitely keeping it. This is so like nostalgic to me. Like the idea of me getting rid of this makes me actually like super emotional, which is probably too much, but this is one of those things that is like one of my favorite things in my makeup collection, even if it's not like my absolute favorite formula or anything. It's just like a very like sentimental product to me, so I'm obviously hanging on to that. And then the Semi Sweet palette too, like just thinking about this palette, it just reminds me of like the summer that I started my channel in 2015. And yeah, like I'm not getting rid of this palette. Just the idea of it makes me like so flustered, so I'm not getting rid of that. Like I have such a strong attachment to these. This is my first eyeshadow palette ever, and like it's been with me for I think 5 years almost. Yeah, I think I wore this on my 23rd birthday, and I'll be 28 at the end of the week. And I remember I was so excited to wear this shade for my 23rd birthday. Like it was super emotional to have an eyeshadow palette that was high-end to wear on my birthday. So definitely not getting rid of that. That just like brought up so many feels. So keeping that. Anyways, like, well, I'm gonna go like hug that palette for like 20 minutes after I finish filming this. But okay, let's go through everything I'm getting rid of, because now I'm having a little bit of like second thoughts. All right, so these are the products that I set aside to get rid of, and I just need to remember that they're going to people who want and need them, and it's not like they're gonna get thrown away, so it makes it easier to get rid of, just knowing that. It's just so hard though, because it's a lot of money that was put into this, but like it served its time in my collection, and it's gonna go to better homes. So I think honestly the only thing that I'm super torn about is the KKW palette, because even if I don't wear it a lot, it's making me sad, the idea of getting rid of it. And like, I've spent 50 bucks on it. I'm just gonna keep it. Like, I just need to start wearing it more, and if I don't wear it more in the next like 2 months, then I can donate it. But yeah, let's hang on to this one. But that's gonna be it. Like, my Colourpop palettes, I don't feel as bad about, because they were more affordable, and I do like love all of these palettes. I will let you guys know that, like, there's nothing wrong with any of these. Like the Cute AF palette, I'm not like super into, but the formula of all of these, like, I've raved about, I love. But you guys saw how many palettes there are in my collection, and I need to get rid of some, and I still have like 5 more Colourpop palettes. So I'm just like justifying things to myself out loud. But getting rid of those, I feel so bad, but they're going to better homes. Getting rid of what used to be my Holy Grail palette, but I've just, like, my makeup taste and style has just changed. The Jouer palette is still really new, so really great condition for donation. Same with the Naked Heat Petite. The Charlotte Tilbury, that would be great for anybody to receive. The Mattes palette, like, all of these are really great palettes to pass along, because they're really neutral and wearable shades. But that's gonna be like all of the palettes that I get rid of. Let me go ahead and show you guys everything I'm keeping. All right, so we have all of these Too Faced palettes. I just love my Too Faced palettes. I do really love this. I can't believe I almost got rid of it. I mean, it's just like a brown palette, but even so, like, the formula is awesome. So check this palette out. In case you guys are curious about it, the Natural Mattes palette. It also smells like chocolate, so yeah, we're not getting rid of that. The Natural Eyes, I love too. Those are all of the Too Faced palettes. Next up, we have all the Anastasia palettes. Of course, Anastasia is just gonna stay in my life forever, because it's awesome. The formula, I always tell you guys, like, the formula is amazing. My Jacqueline palette is staying. My large Jacqueline palette is staying. I'll reorganize this later. I know it's a hot mess, but this is just what we're working with right now. Urban Decay Elements, I actually might get rid of this like in a couple months if I don't end up wearing it too much, but I think that you're just gonna get a lot of like great holiday looks. This is like one of those palettes, honestly, that like if I'm just like bored, like this past weekend I was just bored and wanted to play with makeup, and this is one of those great palettes just to like be creative and like play with. So keeping that one. Then all of my more practical Urban Decay palettes, Naked Cherry, Naked Heat, Born to Run, one of the better neutral palettes that came out this year. My most expensive makeup product in my collection, Natasha Denona Gold palette. I don't regret buying this, which is awesome because it was so expensive. Sometimes if I buy really luxury makeup, like, I feel really guilty using it. Like, I'm like, oh man, every time I use it, I just like spent $2. So maybe I'll actually wear this on my birthday at the end of the week. My birthday is on Friday, in case anybody was curious. But this is just an awesome palette. Really, really love the shades in here. So I'm happy that I have it. Like, I'm not worried about the price because I just enjoy it every time I use it. From Colourpop, we have Perception. We have Dream Street. Like I said, on my vanity right now, I also have the Zodiac palette. And then we're keeping Soul and Mar. Kind of just like some of the newer stuff from Colourpop that I have in my collection. Keeping the new Ace Beauty palette because I have not even tried it yet. Haven't tried the PYT Beauty palette yet. Keeping that. These are some minis. Persona Cosmetics, I just mentioned these are my favorites. Highly recommend them. And then the Modern Metals from e.l.f. is a really nice formula too. Alamar, I need to use more in my life, along with Pat McGrath because she's pricey. this might be some holiday looks. If it's not, we'll pass it along. Then we have the KKW palette I almost got rid of, and now I can't get rid of, so we're keeping that. I think let me keep it here because that way I see it and remember to use it. And then the Huda Beauty Rose Gold Remastered. I need to wear this more during the fall because it has just like a lot of really pretty like reddish tones, like really pretty colors for fall, or just like in general, colors I wear like all the time. So I think that's a lot better. That's gonna be everything for this declutter. I ended up getting rid of about like a dozen palettes, which I think is awesome. And then yeah, that's gonna be everything for this declutter. Stay tuned because like in the next couple weeks, we'll go through this drawer, and I have a feeling I'm gonna declutter so much more because those are palettes I don't use as often as these. But that's gonna be everything for today's video. If you guys liked it, make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And I'll talk to you guys soon in my next video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.